Welcome back to On the Record. I'm Jonathan Friedman alongside Mark Z, coming to you from the offices of O'Brien and Levine. And our next guests in the studio are Jeff Dretler and Amber Elias from Fisher Phillips. Phillips, welcome.
Good morning, Jonathan and Mark.
Thanks for having us.
Good to have you both with us.
Good to meet both of you, and welcome to the show. Could you, Jeff and Amber, can you tell us a little bit about Fisher and Phillips and what types of services you provide?
Sure, I'll jump in and start, and then Amber, feel free to fill in. Fisher and Phillips is a national law firm with about 30 offices and 300 attorneys around the country, and we specialize in labor and employment law. So we're a specialty firm. We only do labor and employment, and we only represent management. So we work on the company. We represent companies of all different sizes and all different industries in helping them resolve and plan for any of the full range of labor and employment problems that occur. And just very briefly, that could include anything from wage and hour issues to non-competes to ERISA, 401k, pension issues, disability, discrimination. We do compliance, we do litigation, traditional labor, union negotiation. We work on behalf of management to negotiate collective bargaining agreements and the like.
Just to get a couple other things, we also have a global employment law practice, which includes business immigration and helping companies that are either bringing in employees from abroad or having their employees stationed elsewhere in the world.
When you're talking about some of the services you provide, how is your experience? So, for example, I know you work with the general counsels of the bigger firms, but how do you work with the smaller companies, especially startups who are just beginning? Are you sort of a vision of what's going to be down the road in terms of working closely with them? At what point do you get involved with them?
Well, that's a great question, and our work with clients does vary quite a bit depending on the type of company it is and the size of the company. As you mentioned, we work closely with general counsel in companies that have general counsel. So, big companies like Toyota or FedEx or something like that, where you've got a general counsel or even a chief labor and employment counsel, we would work with those companies. In smaller companies, sometimes they might not even have a general counsel. Maybe it's just a family business, and we might work there with the owner or president, or sometimes directly with the human resource officer. And with startups, oftentimes there might not even be a human resource officer. I mean, the whole word startup, of course, calls upon a lot of different things. A startup could be two people, working out of their, basement trying to get something off the ground, or a startup can be a very well-funded, high-tech venture with a lot of, capital, and so it really differs. Where we really get involved, and then I'll let Amber chime in a bit, is right when startups are starting, we're really not involved, because startups generally, they're looking for money. They're concerned with sales or product development. They're concerned with intellectual property issues, and until they have enough employees to start to be concerned with employee issues, employee contracts, human resources, that's when we sort of get involved. And usually they've made a lot of mistakes by then. They may not care so much because they got to get their business going, but that's usually once they start to grow a bit is when we get involved, and that could be anywhere from 15 to 20 employees, or 50 to 60.
What just as a follow-up, just what are some of the typical issues? Maybe you can address this, Amber, that you get to a certain stage with startups and companies that are beginning that you're finding once you step in.
Well, I think that a lot of the issues that come up arise from the fact that, as Jeff said, startups are focused on getting their product, getting their financing, and they just don't think about it. A lot of times they're bringing on their friends, and they think, we don't need a contract, we don't need confidentiality, we understand each other. They don't worry about how these people are being paid. They don't worry about...
Often couldn't be further from the truth.
Oh, right. As we've seen time and time and time again, everything is going great in the beginning, and then, the company starts to grow. There starts to be more money involved, and that's when companies run into problems because they haven't done sort of the groundwork of going from a little startup to what they're going to be as a mid-stage and mature company. So we talk to companies about basic things like, have you thought about a handbook? How do you protect your intellectual property? Have you thought about non-competes? Are you actually paying your people, and how much are you paying them? Those are some of the big ones that we see come into play.